in your own way, look around and recognize, all the interdependencies that we are all part of. With regards to positive interdependencies, we rejoice and we enjoy without allowing it to deteriorate into impure or messy interdependence. Especially when we have positive interdependence. The danger there is that it can become tainted with confused samsaric stuff. So the giving and the receiving of gifts and kindness is really good, but it can also turn into samsaric things. That then we have expectations when we give, and then when we receive, we maybe become proud or forget other people's kindness and not think about it, and you think you are entitled to it. So there's a lot of things like that that we should pay attention to. So we recognize the positive interdependencies. We rejoice. We remember people's kindness. We try to return the kindness, not necessarily to the same person, although that's good, but to others. And then when we do that, we think about the kindness that we've received from others. The phrase popularized in some movie, you pay it forward, right? Then when we recognize negative interdependence, that's also interdependence. When you recognize negative interdependence, as I said, like the purba that I received from a Dharma brother, another actually Dorje Lopen in Malaysia. I'll be honest, there's some complicated karma there. Then we recognize that, and then we think like whatever that was negative, we want to purify that. We want to let go of that and not let that cycle continue. That we don't have to be right all the time, because whether we're right or not, we don't even know, because everybody thinks they're right, including myself. I always think I'm right, and sometimes when I'm proven wrong, grudgingly I said, oh yeah, I guess I'm wrong. We all think we're right, but then when we relate to others, then we have to think, like, yeah, you have to give up, even the need to feel like you're right. Then there's a chance, to change and to repair whatever that was negative. Then you can change it into positive. So one of the key things that Gongchik is reminding us, pointing us to, showing us again and again and again and again is how unmistakably, how definitely the principle of Tendra is always at work, and it's never wrong, even if we feel that it is wrong, but that's only because we don't see the full picture. I suppose in God-based systems, they have something like that, but in those systems, they say, only God sees everything, right? Then we who are not God, then we are taught to be humble. We are taught not to think, I know everything, I'm always right. But only God in the God-based system. In Buddhism, which is not a God-based system, our view, our attitude, or the way we view it is to say, right now our ability to see is far from complete clarity. So whatever we see, whatever we experience, it's only from the limited viewpoint, the limited people that we have, that we're trying to see, what's going on out there. And so no need to hold so rigidly and tightly to what we think we are seeing. And then when we have been proven wrong, right? Also then don't need to be defensive or to beat ourselves up so hard. Because when we beat ourselves up, then likely it's also we're beating other people. That's how it happens, that's how suffering is. That's how suffering is. That's how suffering comes together. Especially in the Sangha context, in the being elements of one mandala. So one mandala that we are all part of right now is Kyoba Rinpoche's mandala. We are all part of Kyoba Rinpoche's mandala. In Kyoba Rinpoche's mandala, we have to think like this. Some of us are more kind of involved, some of us are less, but nonetheless, if we are doing this practice, if we are studying this, we are in Kyoba Rinpoche's mandala. So being in Kyoba Rinpoche's mandala, we need to recognize the importance of relating to each other as much as we can from an attitude of, we will try our best to help each other purify our afflictive emotions. And therefore, we have to afford each other great patience and great appreciation. Not to expect anyone to be perfect. Why? Because our perception is fundamentally not perfect. And therefore, with imperfect perception or imperfect glasses, we cannot see clearly, so we rely on glasses. But even these glasses, no matter how good they are, they still distort. So as long as our own perception is not 100% clear, no matter who we look inside this mandala, even if we look to Kyoba Rinpoche, it's not going to be perfect. And here, the problem is not even whether what we're looking at is or isn't perfect, which, the Buddha taught, in fact, they are, and you are. But perception. Right now, our perception is flawed. Instead of Buddha vision, 2020, we have distorted vision. So when we train in the context of seeing each other as members of the same mandala, in this case with Kyoba Rinpoche at the center of the mandala, then we take care in how we relate to each other. Again, not the insider-outsider divide, like, within this mandala, we're very good to each other. And those that are outside, we perceive as enemies. Or if we're more sophisticated, we perceive them as enemies, but potentially can be recruited into our mandala. Once they're in, then we do everything to love and to protect them. Once outside, then it's something else. No. We temporarily relate to this mandala in this way, with care, with patience, with concern, so that we can extend this mandala outwards and outwards and outwards until all beings everywhere we include in that way of relating with them, relating to them. Same principle with Guru Yoga. We begin by training ourselves in relation to human gurus that we receive the Dharma from, and perceiving them as Vajradhara, perceiving them as deity, not because only they are deities and we are scum. Or they are deities, we are potentially deities, other people are scum. No, they are deities, they are Buddhas, we are Buddhas. Those that we right now perceive as scum are also Buddhas. And the point of even relating to the Guru as Buddha, perceiving the Guru as Buddha, is so that we can perceive all beings as Buddhas and relate to all beings as Buddhas. So that's important to remember. Vajra statement 1 of chapter 1 of Gongchik. If you have the physical page or pictures of the physical page, is page 49. If you have the Kindle version, I believe, I think Kim mentioned it's 64, I believe. So that's the first Vajra verse of the first chapter. So the statement says, all here in this translation, all the teachings of the Buddha reveal the original state of the fundamental nature. But we work very closely on this statement, yeah. And I highly recommend, if you can, to go back to that recording, that class that we did this, and listen to it again and again and again, because this statement can be translated, I feel, even more precisely. But I also fully understand, why Sobish chose this translation to commit to, because what we were doing is very messy, because we were dissecting every part, and you cannot, print a book like that. So don't misunderstand me. I have very high regard for the work that Sobish has done. It's amazing. It's amazing. So what I was doing is not at all, a criticism of what he's doing, but necessarily as a translator, and producing a book, publishing a book, letting a book, he has to make some choices. So anyway, here we looked at that more closely. So the Tibetan original is Jugun Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. Jugun Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. So Jugun is all dharmas. Dharmas carry the connotation of both explicit, both teachings that the Buddha gave, dharma, all dharmas in that sense, but dharmas also mean phenomena, meaning everything that we perceive to exist. So then to teach, to reveal. So Buddha's teachings show, Buddha's teachings reveal, but also all phenomena show. All phenomena can show us this. If we know how to look, can show us this. What do they show? They show the fundamental nature. Fundamental nature of what? Of one thing. But this one thing, you can call it this, or you can call it that. You can understand it from this perspective, or you can understand it from this perspective, but it's fundamentally one topic, so to say. And so the fundamental nature of, well, look from this perspective, you can call it essence, Shi. Looking from this perspective, or looking from this perspective, you can call it Pab, which is how it unfolds, how it comes down. So whether we are looking at it from the perspective of how things play out, or we're looking at it from the nature, the essence of these things, they are not two different things. They are the same. So same intention, Gongchik. One intention, Gongchik. Single intention, Gongchik. So then this statement, Sherab Jungne tells us, is primarily stated in response to, so above it says, in general, people claim that since the Tathagata, the Buddha, is the Lord of Dharma, Joje, the king of Dharma, sovereign of Dharma, he teaches things as he holds them, as he believes them. He holds them, meaning as he believes them to be, and thus they are like that. He holds them, he believes them, he wants them. So in other words, here is it's saying, some people say, the Buddha is the Lord of the Dharmas. So as Lord of the Dharmas, he can do whatever he wants, change whatever he wants, because he is the one that sets the rules. So in a way, you could say this Vajra statement is saying there are some people who fundamentally relate to the Buddha as if the Buddha was an almighty God, someone who created all of this and therefore set the rules in place. And whenever he feels like it, whenever he wants to, he can just change the rules because he's the Lord of Dharma. Now, I think, if you have enough exposure, education in the Dharma, you will say, no, what Buddhists think like that, Then you will feel like this Vajra statement and what it is responding to is almost like what we call a straw man. You set up a straw man and then you hit the straw man, right? Yeah, you'll feel like, no, whoever knows a little bit of Dharma will know that this is not the case, Then you look at this Vajra statement and you think, this is just, such a, such a non-issue to be talking about. We all know that the Buddhas are not like that, Well, and I will confess, many years ago when I first looked at this, I thought, oh yeah, that was what I thought. So maybe I'm projecting on other people. But maybe you also think like this. I don't know. You can think about it. But now I'm understanding. I'm seeing. I'm realizing that emotionally, I think various versions of this kind of theism, this kind of attitude, this kind of understanding actually exist. Even if intellectually you're like, oh, Buddhists are only here to show what they discovered. This is just the way things are. Buddhists cannot be like God, cannot, in fact, there's no such thing as God and someone who changes the rules and someone who set up the rules, but this is just the fundamental nature of how things are. But on so many emotional levels, we so need, someone who will just sweep in and take care of all the problems, make all the problems go away. And of course, what kind of problems? Those things that I call problem. What kind of make them go away? The way that I think they should go away, Then essentially, you can say, you sort of think you are God, you know everything. And you know what's good and what's not good, and and then I want to get rid of the things that I don't like. I only want to keep the things that I like, and do it in the way that I like, rather than knowing the way things are and accepting the way things. Accepting the way things are is not accepting the status quo. Just to be clear, We're not saying, something negative is going on and we say, oh, just accept that's what's going on. We also know it's possible to change. If there's suffering, it can change. Or if there's happiness, it can also change if we're not careful. Accepting things as they are means, first of all, before you try to do anything about it, you have to understand its nature and how it plays out, its essence and how it's playing out. Then only from that place, then real skillful means can happen. The method can work. And so this is not a fatalistic view. Accepting things as they are is not talking about being fatalistic, but it's talking about before you try to do anything in a situation, you need to know its essence and how it is playing out. Its essence, the principle is shunyata, emptiness. The way it is playing out, the bab, is interdependence. Interdependently arising, interdependently ceasing. Once you understand those two principles and you accept those two principles, then you can work with any situation that arises. You know when to push and when to yield. You know when to, when to act and when to restrain. You know when to go forward, you know when to go backwards. You know when to go sideways, and you know when to go frontways. When you understand the principle with regards to the essence and the principle with regards to how it plays out. She or Bab. In the commentary that Chodra, Riksin Chodra, so it says, since the Buddha, the Exalted One, attained Buddhahood within the essence of the complete purity of all phenomena, complete purity is kada, purity or pristine nature of all phenomena. This is so this pristine nature or complete purity of all phenomena, the vocabulary, the expression is more Vajrayana. If you use a Sutrayana expression, it would be the emptiness of all phenomena. So complete purity is not talking about some other higher level realization beyond emptiness. It's just the flavor. It's a Vajrayana flavor. Same ice cream, different flavor. Since the Buddha attained Buddhahood within the essence of the complete purity of all phenomena, he is not a supreme agent like a divine magician or a god. So Buddhas are not like Almighty God. So first we have to get that. Then he reveals the fundamental nature of all phenomena out of great love. So he taught us, about what he discovered out of great love and compassion. That fundamental nature, which is the inevitable effectiveness of virtue and non-virtue, namely dependent origination, cannot be changed by Buddhists. Cause and result deceive no one, whether high or low rank. This point number 4, of course, I don't know the original Tibetan. I have not, looked it up. But let me elaborate on this fourth one. When it says cause and result deceive no one, I think what it's saying here is cause and result are unmistaken, so that it doesn't matter whether you are high rank or low rank, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're famous or infamous. More importantly, in the spiritual sense, doesn't matter if you're an 8th Bhumi Bodhisattva, doesn't matter if you're Buddha, or you are a hell being, cause and effect works the same for everyone. It's not that when you're Buddhist, you can do something negative and expect a positive result to come. Or do something positive and then experience a negative result. No. So deceive, maybe, this is, maybe this translation, it's a little, I'm sure it's quite literal, but what's communicated is that they are unmistaken. In fact, most of the time we get deceived. We are deceived by appearances, right? I mean, look around, you say, oh my gosh, these people who clearly are doing very horrendous things, they seem to be quite blessed with, power, fame, big house, big car, handsome husband or beautiful wife, or both. And we say, wow, they're doing pretty well, So often we are deceived by that. We think, oh, therefore, if I want to have those things, then I have to do, unscrupulous things to get there. And we have been deceived by appearances. But cause and effect itself, is unmistaken. You cannot plant a mango seed and expect an apple tree. It doesn't work like that. 5, he possesses the gnosis that perceive what is and what is not appropriate. He possesses the wisdom knowledge that sees clearly what brings about suffering, what brings about happiness. So his teachings, therefore, so the teachings that he gives, all the dharmas, chokun, right? We should relate to them. We should understand that they are prescriptions and proscriptions. Sometimes this is translated as permission and prohibition. But I don't like that translation, to tell the truth, permission and prohibition. Because that has too much a sense of like someone very powerful, right, is permitting you to do something and prohibiting you from another thing. So the imagery there is a legalist, right? An authority-based. You're allowed this, you're not allowed that. But no. Buddha's teachings are about like a skillful physician. In fact, Buddhas are called, Hence we have medicine Buddha. But Buddhas are supreme physicians, supreme healers. So a doctor's job is not to permit or to prohibit. Although when we are kids, when we're immature, right? And we look at doctors, it is as if they are God. They say, you can eat this, you cannot eat that. You can do this, you cannot do that. But a mature attitude to a doctor is, a doctor prescribes and proscribes. Prescribes is saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, because given your condition, This is helpful, this is helpful, this is helpful, this is helpful. You should not do this, you should not do this, and you should not do that. Because given your condition, this, that, it's not going to be good for you. That's where Buddhists are. That's where the Buddhist teachings are. Now, it takes tremendous responsibility. As a child, spiritually speaking, if you relate to it as permission and prohibition, you will be kept safe. Yes. If you relate to it like, oh, this is permission, this is prohibition, you'll be kept safe, yes. But you won't feel very free, The method still keeps you constrained. But as an adult, you have the freedom, now that you know it's permission, now it's not permission or prohibition, but prescription or proscription. But then it also means like, now you're less afraid, right? You have some freedom, but it also means freedom to suffer. Freedom to suffer. So much of Dharma practice is about not deceiving yourself. So Milarepa says, my religion or my Dharma is often translated as religion. But Milarepa says, my Dharma, what Dharma do I follow? I follow the Dharma of not deceiving myself. I follow the Dharma of not fooling myself. Earlier, when I have been asked to teach in Asia, sometimes to like younger people, university, or often a question, people will ask, because they're used to the more God-based, theistic-based, even though they're not, Christians or Muslims, but that attitude, it goes beyond, personal religion, this theism. It's something very, in a way, you can say, very ingrained in our psyche. We might not say, oh, I look to Jesus, I look to Allah, I look to, I don't know, Krishna, as someone that will deliver me in the end. You don't even need to have that in order to have this kind of theistic attitude. But it's very ingrained, I think. So I remember, so young people would ask me questions like, a Buddhist allowed to blah, 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 fill in the blanks, whatever that is, right? A Buddhist allowed to blah, blah, blah. So of course, young people, concerns of young people, a Buddhist allowed to, smoke. A Buddhist allowed to have premarital sex. A Buddhist allowed, or some would be like, a Buddhist allowed to practice euthanasia. A Buddhist allowed, all the hot topics, whatever it is you fill in, and then my response to them, and I can tell you that response, I found that if I said that, even if there are other in the room who are like, say, Buddhist leaders, at first they also like, oh, wait, how can you say that? Because to kind of have maximum shock effect, I will say to people, as Buddhists, you're allowed to do whatever heck you want to do. And then, the more conservative teachers in the room would be like, how can you say that? But that is the truth. Because in Buddhism, nobody is stopping you from doing whatever you want to do. You're allowed to do whatever you want. Because in this system, it has nothing to do with allowed or not allowed. Are you allowed to suffer? Yes. Are you allowed to be happy? Yes. In this system, it's about, what do you want? In this system, it's about you make your choice, and then every choice has its consequence. You see clearly. You see as clear as you can. Maybe not much use to talk about, when you are Buddhist, when you're a Buddhist. When you're Buddhist, you are already Buddha, so we don't need to talk so much about when you're Buddhist, I feel. But we can talk about, what about now? What about now then is, know that the more you understand what is going on, and then make your decision based on recognizing what is going on, then the more likely your actions will be skillful actions, and the more likely is the results that come is what you would label as pleasant, as desirable. And life is such that I think often it's not clear because we cannot see so clearly. And often you find yourself caught between a rock and a hard place. That's why every time, people will say to me, oh yeah, that's easy to say, but in reality, it's hard. Yeah, of course, And in a way, I want to say to people, stop saying that. You're using that as like a shield from actually applying the Dharma. It's almost like I would say, it goes without saying. If it goes without saying, don't say. Because saying it will kind of keep coloring your attitude. Just like, okay, it's not a point. Just do the best that you can. Then just do the best that you can. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Don't be so harsh on other people. Through this fivefold reasoning, which is these 5 points, coming back to the commentary, what is established, what should become clear, is the original state of the fundamental nature, which is what the pure teachings of the Buddhas are teaching, is to teach the original state of the fundamental nature. And it has only one position. Again, this notion of singular. One as in unified, complete, harmonious, non-contradictory. And then accord, as it is said, non-dual, teaching non-dually. Next page, the fundamental nature, as just explained, is nothing other than the sphere of reality of sentient beings' natural continuum. Okay, so what's going on here is that this fundamental nature that we just looked at, that can be understood by understanding those 5 points, is also none other than our Buddha nature, here called natural continuum, Kamgyud in Tibetan. So it quotes this central important Mahayana text called Madhyanta Vibhaga. If we summarize emptiness, true reality, limit of reality, absence of conceptual signs, absolute truth, and sphere of reality are its synonyms, if we summarize. So what is emptiness? Well, emptiness can be called true reality. Emptiness can be called limit of reality. Emptiness can also be called absence of conceptual signs, absolute truth, sphere of reality, dharma dhatu, All these are synonyms for this emptiness. And to bring this point closest to home, meaning this is also the nature of our mind. The nature of our mind and the nature of all phenomena are same. Chikpa, Gongchik Chikpa is the same. Same nature, no difference. So elsewhere it is said, instead of examining phenomena, instead of moving outwards to examine things, which is, I guess, the secular sciences teach us that, right? The secular sciences are very good at exploring, learning, discovering the nature of everything, or the characteristics of everything. Maybe not nature, but the characteristics of everything. But the inner science, Buddha Dharma, tells us to investigate the mind. Not the brain, but mind. That's the inner science. Therefore, that all the Buddha's teachings reveal the original state of the fundamental nature of the sentient being's thoughts. The absolute reality is established through many authoritative quotations and reasonings. Therefore, so at this point, basically the Buddha's teachings reveal the original state of the fundamental nature of sentient beings' minds. So ultimately, Buddha's teachings point to the nature of our minds. That's what we need to study. There's a great Confucian scholar in the Song Dynasty, Wang Yangming. The Confucian tradition in China, in the Song Dynasty, kind of developed into two branches. One branch emphasizes the importance of studying the external world, meaning studying how to be a good person, how to do this, how to do that, how to rule the government, how to operate in the family, and this and that, and this and that. And the other branch of the Confucian tradition, and historians say, under heavy influence from the Buddhists, emphasized the studying of principles. So they broke into sort of two schools of thought, studying phenomena and studying principles. So the studying principles are called xuan xue. So that branch of Confucianism emphasizes, you could read the classics, meaning the Confucian classics, the wisdom of the sages. You can read the 10,000 pages of the classics. That doesn't come close to reading for a moment your mind. So to kind of emphasize the primacy of turning inwards and look at mind. What is this nature of mind? Or you could say the perceiving subject. And that's the fundamental nature that the Buddha is teaching. Then when we can see how the mind is in its essence and how the mind plays out, then that is how we can regain our Buddha state. Questions, comments?
Dr. Lai, you said that is how we regain our
Buddha state.
We regain, so we had it and we lost it, right?
Yeah. So Buddha nature, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we lost it like not at the Garden of Eden, but primordially. Yeah. Without beginning, we have already been confused.
So we never were Buddhas. Like
what? Sorry?
We were never before. We were never Buddhas before. We had the potential to be Buddhas. That's
no, we're always Buddhas.
Dr. Lai.
Nothing is gained in the way. Uttara Tantra says, when sentient beings achieve Buddha, the Buddha state has not been improved. Nothing has been added. And when Buddhists, so to say, don't realize that they're Buddhists, nothing has been lost. Because all the gain and the loss is occurring in the illusory state. And from the awakened state, nothing has been lost, nothing has been gained, except for waking up and realizing, oh, that was all a dream. So in the dream, all the gains and the losses are all just meaningless now in the awakened state.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
Back to the original statement for a second. It's saying Buddha is Lord of Dharma and Buddha holds things to be like that.
Yeah, that's not the statement. That's the context for the statement.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Is one way to interpret that is saying not on the authoritative side, but just the fact that if you believe that he is knowledgeable and has gnosis, then you also believe that he is speaking the truth. I mean, that's that.
But no, that statement is to show that statement, and in the structure of this text, that statement above or the context provided above the statement is always about how you could get it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about how you could get it wrong.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then the statement is in bold. That's the statement. Those are the Vajra statements. In bold, that's a corrective to how you could get this issue wrong.
Okay.
And that's how people got it wrong. They say, oh, the Buddha is the Lord of Dharma.
Right.
And therefore he has power to change the Dharma.
Right.
And here Dharma would mean reality.
Right.
He can change reality according to his own whim.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
I have a question about the first stanza. When you say that interdependence is also containing, or it contains also like a kind of expectation or energy, the tender, no? I have heard or I have read some other teachers that say that it's always this interdependence can carry some kind of energy, or like sometimes negative.
Yes.
Together with expectations that it's something that can, I don't know how to say, but it's heavy, no? For the in relation with the guru, for example, and the
yes. Sure.
So can you clarify a little bit more
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it?
So that's all part of like karma too. Yeah. So when you do something, you know, and you have a lot of expectations, the more expectations you have, then that is desiring mind. Then, you know, if there's desiring mind, there is disappointment mind. Yeah. So the greater the object that this action is involved in, then there is great power to go either way. A Sufi saying, who was it? A famous Sufi. Oh, he was the one who said An al-Haq. Oh, I forgot already his name, but Turkish Sufi. On his way to being executed for heresy, his friends and his disciples, afraid of being identified as his friends or disciples, but wanting to see him the last time as he's being dragged to his public execution for heresy. You know, mainstream religion cannot accept these mystics. And so typical of public executions is people lining the route is encouraged to stone, throw things at the criminal. So it is said that his best friend, a spiritual friend, under pressure to also, you know, kind of show that he is not for him, threw things at him, but didn't have the heart, of course, to throw a rock. Instead, he threw a rose at him. And so the Turkish saying is, a flower, a rose thrown by a friend hurts more than a rock thrown by a stranger. You know, that is our samsaric reality. When we have expectations of someone, whether in the ordinary way or even expectations of a guru, careful what we are throwing, you know. But it's still basically karma, cause and effect. Karma is not just actions, but the motivations that underlie those actions create a particular quality. So we could say a particular energy, but it's not so mysterious in a way. So this is related to, I said, you know, like I think in another class last week, I said, why in the monks training, it is said that, and especially it is practiced still today in Theravada cultures, when people give gifts, offerings to monks, monks are told and culturally too, expected not to acknowledge those gifts. Not out of lack of appreciation, not out of lack of human feelings, but I think really Buddha was trying to give a kind of training whereby these types of expectations don't get planted. So that the giver should only give based on a clear understanding of the meaning and the dynamics of this giving, of cultivating generosity. And the receiver should also understand. And the receiver doesn't do things to kind of plant the seeds for future bigger givings, better givings. It can happen so easily, you know. And why they say, you know, when it comes to your guru, when it comes to your dharma, you need to be more careful, you know. Also because, you know, this is our main and perhaps last resort for the ills of samsara. And if we corrupt this last hope for the ills of samsara, then there is no more hope left. So great care needs to be there. I'm not sure if it answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was. I don't know if I told you. I remember that sometimes sometime I told you about His Holiness Yalwan Drukpa that wrote some article about this, no? This how the expectations given, or even not like things that are given, but actions that are done with some kind of I don't know the word in Tibetan. That it was like kind of energy that is that keeps.
Oh, that is more about. I think that is about core. Core is a very specific type of contamination
that
surrounds the giving and the receiving of things, of actions, of services around gurus. That's called core. But not just gurus, even like monastics. You know, basically, when people have a lot of expectations and they give you something or they do something for you, you carry a core. Even if you don't have expectations, you have to recognize that there is core. There is the contamination of core over there. So some practitioners, some very serious practitioners, monks or yogis meditating, they absolutely, they don't want to receive anything from everyone. They say, because I have no power to handle this core. So I don't want, you know.
So it will be same as, I mean, this is part of interdependence, as you say.
Yes,
part of
yes,
karma.
Absolutely. Yeah, this all still works on the principle of karma. But it's, of course, it's not always so straightforward either. So I've also heard, you know, an opinion that says, yes, on the one hand, you, the recipient of these gifts, these kind acts that people do for you, and you should be aware that like it or not, these people who do it, they have expectations, and now you have carried the core. They say the solution is not necessarily that you say, oh, you put up a sign, no gifts, no gifts, no actions, you know, accepted, because they say, at the same time, Buddha says, and I mean specifically to monks and nuns, like, your job is to receive the offerings of others, because you should become a way for them to accumulate merit. So they also say, also don't forget that part, because so then the solution to core It's not that kor, you should run away from kor, but you should accept it and realize, how heavy this is, and do your best to motivate you to purify. So this is the samsaric situation. And you have to take with great responsibility and always remember to purify. This principle even applied to, I've heard, like, I don't know, more mundane way, they give examples. They say, for example, they say, people, they say, if you, I don't know if anyone has done any actual statistics, but anecdotally, this example of kor, not in the context of giving to gurus or religious people, but they say one way where you can see the effects, the heaviness of kor. They say, if you look at people who win lotteries, many of them don't have a very good life after winning the lottery. They suffer even more. And they lose friends and family relationships, deteriorate. So they say it's because, when you win a lottery, the price that you get is based on many people buying lottery with a lot of expectations. So that money is very heavy. Everyone's expectations, everyone's plan. Oh, if I win this, I will do this, I will do that. In fact, I will even donate so much to charity and this and that and this and that. And then they did not win, But you won. Then all their expectations, positive, negative, neutral, everything is piled on top of that you won. And most people don't have the power to handle that. So in other words, they're saying an 8th Bhumi Bodhisattva can safely win lottery and use those winnings in a very skillful and positive way. So they have transformed and purified the kor that is associated with that. But lesser beings, in the hands of lesser beings, winning a lottery could actually sink your boat. Then maybe, most of us are like, it's okay, just let me win, then I will figure out. Happy Monday. It is Monday, by the way, if you have lost track of your days. It is Monday. Happy Monday. And we will continue this on Wednesday. Then the other thing is Lojong continues on Thursdays evening, 7:30 to 9, through Zoom, if you use Zoom. If you want to break from Zoom, you can watch from Facebook, Urban Dharma. Then next Sunday, we will have the puja practice with the talk, the talk offering. And all you need to prepare is a little plate of food and some beverage as an offering. So I will see you. And I've also, maybe this is helping, I don't know, got light, so that it's clear. Looking for ways to improve sort of people's experience.
That's good.
간주 센주린 보지 마게 바난 개규지 개바냥 밤에 고뇌 공두 배월쇼
Thank you.